So let's talk about generative AI and law firm SEO. Generative AI tools like ChatGPT basically learn from large libraries of content. When told to generate, it basically writes an output that is an average consensus of all of the similar data that is digested. So by design, AI content is, average. I'm Jason Bland with Custom Legal Marketing. For 18 years, I've been helping law firms use digital marketing to sign new cases. Generative AI is disruptive for SEO, but not in a bad way. Bigger Law Firm magazine, who's actually been reporting on AI in search since 2015, recently mentioned that Google changed its content policies and now allows AI-generated content in its index, which is a huge reversal. For decades, anything but human-created content was against their terms. But then they got into the generative AI game with Google Bard. And you can't really say, hey, use this product over here, and then on the other side, prohibit the output of that product in their core service, which of course is search. So you might think that this is an opportunity to flood your law firm's website with a ton of content, win the SEO game by letting bots do all of the work, and then you can sit back, relax, and let the traffic pour in. That's probably not going to happen. In fact, I don't believe generative AI is going to make SEO easier. If anything, I think it's going to get much, much harder. So let's take a deep dive into the future of SEO and generative AI. In order to serve answers to people that are chatting or searching, all generative AI services need content producers. Otherwise, generated content just becomes a constant work of AI fiction. In our own experiments, we've seen this firsthand. In one ChatGPT experiment, I used this prompt. Write a blog entry on AI and search and include sources and URLs from articles on customlegalmarketing.com. It did include article references and URLs, but they weren't real. CLM never published any of the blogs that were sourced, though they did give us these fake URLs. And ChatGPT 4 now actually includes a disclaimer saying that the URLs or the links are hypothetical, which is useless. So ChatGPT, not a search engine. But Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI has moved generative AI to being search results. So let's take a look at that. If I type in something like, do EVs cause serious injuries in car accidents? I get an answer on the left with multiple sources, and then in the generative AI output on the right, it gives me different sources which I can click on to get more information. And personally, I think it's a little cluttered, but I do like that Bing will link to the sources of their outputs. The marriage between ChatGPT and Bing gives a little more authority to what the chatbot is saying because you can actually kind of fact check the output. Now let's talk about you. Not you, the person watching this video, but you.com, the search engine you probably didn't know existed until a second ago when I said you.com. You.com is really new. It's had generative chatbots integrated with their results for a little while, and they do this in a way that I think represents the future of how AI outputs and content producers, like your law firm, will ultimately coexist. When you ask a question about, just as an example, we'll use the EV question. So we'll ask, are electric vehicles more dangerous in a car accident? It didn't show me the source of the output, but it does list related websites on the right. So you.com, I think, has a lot of potential, but it's very young. And it does, however, provide a look at how AI content producers may coexist on the screen. And you.com is rapidly innovating, which is kind of fun to watch. So we've seen how ChatGPT makes up sources. Bing displays too many sources. You.com neatly displays chat outputs with search results that may or may not be the source. And I guess the big question is, what about Google? At this year's Google I/O conference, they unveiled their vision for how generative AI will be used in the search results page. And since Google enjoys 90% market share, which, by the way, hasn't budged all year, even with all the hype around the Bing ChatGPT partnership, you need to pay close attention.
Now, search does the heavy lifting for you. What you see here looks pretty different, so let me first give you a quick tour. You'll notice a new integrated search results page, so you can get even more out of a single search. There's an AI-powered snapshot that quickly gives you the lay of the land on a topic. And so here you can see that while both parks are kid-friendly, only Bryce Canyon has more options for your furry friend. Then if you want to dig deeper, There are links included in the snapshot. You can also click to expand your view, and you'll see how the information is corroborated. So you can check out more details and really explore the richness of the topic. This new experience builds on Google's ranking and safety systems that we've been fine-tuning for decades.
Immediately after the demo at Google I/O, I jumped on the wait list and anxiously waited to get my hands on it and see it in action for law-related searches because, that's what we're all about here. Now that I've been playing around with it for a bit, I kind of like it. In fact, I actually like it a lot. And I think your law firm is going to get more traffic from Google, not less. And here's why. Google is doing what ChatGPT doesn't. They're giving credit to the source. Let's see Google generative search results in action. I'm going to ask Google a question about employment law. And let's find out if programmers are exempt from overtime laws in San Francisco. Over here on the left, I get the AI response. This answers my question with a little more details than what you would get from a classic featured snippet. And at the top right, Google is sharing sources for their generated content. So I could click on McCormick Law Firm and learn a little bit more. Some publishers have been complaining that Google's generative results are actually just verbatim text lifted from their website, which would basically make it a featured snippet in a fancy box. But when I ran the generated output about overtime laws through Copyscape and saw if there was any verbatim copying, there was really only one small section that was used verbatim from McCormick Law Firm's website, and that was just a description of the law, which isn't really something that can be uniquely worded while still maintaining accuracy. But the people making those claims have provided screenshots that prove that sometimes that is happening on the generative output. So the generative search output is essentially a fancy featured snippet built from multiple sources. Now, since McCormick's website is the featured snippet for the overtime question, it tells us that Google might be using similar quality scoring for their AI sources as they do for rankings and choosing featured snippet content. With generative AI, there are now 3 or more opportunities to be featured on the top of the page. Now in this case, since my client is the featured snippet, I'm not really that thrilled that they're now going to be sharing the spotlight among the generated sources with 2 other people, but I am confident that we'll be able to be featured as a source for a wide variety of employment law topics now, which will ultimately be a net positive. The generative search results are not available to everyone, and it's primarily being used by geeks like us that immediately join the waitlist. However, if you do see a lab beaker icon at the top right after you log into your Google account, you'll have the ability to go in and activate the generative AI feature and start testing it out for yourself. It's very new, and it will most certainly change. But regardless of how this feature evolves, or might look a little different in the future, I believe generative output with sources is here to stay, and I'll tell you why. In January, I wrote an article in Forbes on how ChatGPT might change the law firm SEO landscape. 2 months after the chatbots started taking over headlines, there was a lot of talk about how people might just turn to chatbots to get answers instead of search engines. But here's the problem. Chatbots learn from human inputs. When you ask Google a question, the answer you're getting, it's not coming from Google. It's coming from websites and journalists and researchers and the collection of knowledge that exists across the web. And why does Google have that content? Because we give it to them for free. People and companies freely share their knowledge and expertise by publishing content and allowing Google to index it. In return, Google may serve tiny pieces of that content and drive potential customers to your website. That's the value proposition. In exchange for giving them free content that they're going to monetize, they're giving you clicks. What I like about Google's approach is that it is shining a spotlight on the true experts that are feeding the AI response in a way that ChatGPT does not. At CLM, we're already coming up with new ways to get Google to see our clients as a source-worthy authority now that we have 3 new opportunities to be at the top of page 1. For your own law firm's SEO, it's time to shift your content away from the same old stuff that all of your competitors are writing about. And really, you should have been doing that before now. Being the source for AI is the new featured snippet, and it's time to get creative, turn the real-life experience and expertise of your firm into the content that Google needs to answer questions so that you can get a ton of clicks by being above page 1. Did you find this helpful? Let us know and subscribe to keep getting more helpful insights like this.